Hello, in this video you will learn a fascinating fact about the universe that you most likely didn't know before and that will definitely change the way you imagine how this universe functions. So we're going to talk about gravity, and from school we know that this is a force that's pulling objects together, and it depends on two things: the mass of the objects and the distance between them. Here is an exact formula how to calculate gravity. But essentially, it means the heavier the objects are and the closer they are to each other, the stronger the force is. And the opposite, the lighter the objects are and the further away they are from each other, the weaker the force is. And here's an example from NASA blog where you can see how we have on this first image we see a massive star and the light line that is traveling next to a star, and you see how it's bending. So because there is this force of gravity, it's pulling this the light to the star so that it's changing its direction. Very interesting, right? Very interesting, except one thing. If we actually Google the weight of the photon is a particle that light consists of, we're gonna see the answer nothing. That means that the photons weight zero, and as a result, the light doesn't have any weight. Its mass is completely zero. So if we go back to this formula, and if we look at these m1 and m2, and if one of those is zero, then the whole formula should be equal to zero. That means if one of the objects doesn't weigh anything, then according to the generally accepted formula, then the star should not have any impact on the light because the light weighs nothing and gravity is a force that depends on the weight. So, what does it mean? What's the explanation to this phenomenon? Well, the thing is that gravity is not exactly a force in the traditional scientific definition, because this formula is correct. It is how you calculate force, but gravity has a different nature. And this formula is of course correct, but the nature itself, the way gravity is generated, let's say, is really different. And it's not something invisible that's pulling objects together and making us stay on the surface of Earth and not fly away in the open space. It's not an invisible force. The answer to this is was provided by Einstein back in 1920s or something when he worked on his relativity theories, and he found the answer to this. The answer is that the universe we live in, the space itself, is being warped around massive objects. Let me show you a visualization of that so you understand what it means. So essentially, whenever you have a massive object anywhere in the space, what it's gonna do is warp the space itself, the fabric of the universe. You can see an example. This is a good image here. You can see how Earth has mass and it's kind of dragging everything to itself, but it's not really pulling the objects around it. It just pulls the space, the fabric itself. And then whenever anything is kind of traveling, passing by Earth, um, let's say something is kind of passing by, it's following now this path, right? Boom, like that. So the thing is that for the object inside, like for the object itself, it looks like as if the object is traveling straight, not in a curved line. It's similar how you can imagine driving across driving a car around Earth, and from your point of view, it's gonna look like as if you're traveling in a straight line, but in reality, you are gonna be traveling in a circle. So from your point of view, it's a straight line, but from somebody else's point of view, you're traveling in a circle. Same way for these objects that are passing by Earth. From their point of view, it looks like they're traveling in a straight line. But because of the space itself being warped around massive objects, they're actually, from looking from a side, they're traveling in this curved line. So this explanation by Einstein explains why we see these phenomena where light is actually impacted by heavy object. This explanation, this formula by Newton, it doesn't explain it because massless objects, there are a lot of massless objects in the universe, should not be impacted by gravity if this was the true nature of gravity. But the true nature of gravity is was explained by Einstein, the space warping, and because of that warping, it doesn't matter if it still depends on the mass, because then the other object in here is also kind of warping space around it, and they will be dragged heavier, right, to each other. But essentially, even if you have a massless object passing by Earth, it's gonna still kind of change its direction. So I hope you guys liked it. I hope it makes sense. And the reason why I decided to share this fact because it's kind of mind blowing if you think about it. Even if you look up online, even if you go to like reputable online websites, you will see the definition of gravity as force. See, definition of gravity. We go to Britannica, and it's literally saying gravitation in mechanics, the universal force. But it's not really a force, it's just the result of the space in our universe being warped around heavy objects. And then that warped space is causing the trajectory of passing objects change and kind of like uh, direct towards the object. So I'm not sure if this is a mistake or it's just like a way to simplify things for the majority of people, but in reality, gravity is not an invisible force. It's the result that we're kind of it's the result of the universe that we're living in. Make sure you like if you didn't know this fact and share it with your friend. Tell them what it really looks like.